Hey Arifa! We're going to make hummus and we're going to use svensk ödlade gula ärter. Now, the traditional recipe for hummus uses chic ärter, and if you look at them, they look almost identical to these ones. But the gula ärter are a lot cheaper and they're grown locally in Sweden. So if you can get them, then use these. If you already have these at home, these are fine to use as well, and it's the same process. So I'm gonna measure out a cup. So we're gonna measure a cup. This is the measure that I use, and if you don't have that, it's okay. We'll see how much it is equivalently in, oops, these little guys kind of fly around, so you have to be a little careful. We'll see how it is equivalently in grams and also in just like a regular mug. Okay. Wow, so it looks like a cup is going to be really close to 200 grams. We might be able to make this be exactly 200 grams. Okay. Ah! Told you those little suckers fly around. We'll find the other one later. Okay, so in terms of like a regular old mug, how much is this? It's not quite full, it's about that much. So if you don't have a scale, you can just take a standard mug and fill it about 3/4 full, I would say. Or if you have one of these kind of measuring cups, then this comes to about the, well, 2DL line, which I guess makes sense because it's about 200 grams. All right. So, what are we going to do with these? We're going to put them in a pot, and this size will do. A little smaller might be okay, bigger of course would be fine. And as you can see, they're very dry, so they need to soak in water. So I'm going to add to them an ample amount of water, like so, cold water. I think that'll do. And then I'm just gonna let them soak. So I'm just gonna leave them on the stove, not turned on. And now here's the thing, you can soak them either overnight and then cook them in the morning, or you can get up in the morning and soak them all day and then cook them in the evening. And as long as you soak them for at least like 6 hours, but you can soak them longer. It's not a super exact science. So I'd say at least 6 hours, and maybe like try not to have longer than 12 hours. It'll be fine. So next time, I'll show you how to cook them, okay? Ciao. Hello! Now we're going to cook the gula ärter. So, they've been soaking, and you can see how they look. Some people say that you're supposed to change the water and not cook them in the same water. I'm often just kind of lazy and I just cook them in the same water. If you suspected that your beans had been treated with like some chemicals that are kind of dodgy, then you might indeed want to rinse out the water and change it. I'm just going to show you how much. So you can see the quantity of water in here now. And this is probably enough. I'm just going to add a tiny bit more. You can use olive oil if you have it. If you don't and you have rapsolje, you can use that. You could use pretty much any oil. So we're going to dump in a little bit of oil. This will help so that it doesn't like foam up and overflow. And then, to give it some flavor, we're gonna find somewhere hiding. I'm gonna use a cube of vegetable bouillon. And this is 10 grams. Each cube is 10 grams. So I'm going to use one of these. So if you have just like a jar of loose vegetable bouillon, you can use the equivalent of 10 grams. If you have liquid, like I don't have vegetable bouillon, but I have chanterelle mushroom bouillon, but they make this kind of liquid bouillon for like vegetable bouillon also. So you could use 1.5 tablespoons of this stuff if you have that. Don't use the chanterelle though, it'll give it a funky flavor. Just use vegetable bouillon. Okay, so we just drop it in there. Hello cat. Plunk. Turn on the stove. Do not turn it on to the highest heat possible. So my stove goes up to 9, and I like to cook it on 7. So I'm just gonna kind of cock the lid so that the steam can come out. And now, really important, set timer. Don't think that you'll remember, because you might be like me and you won't remember, and then you'll be like, what's that smoky smell? Yeah. So set yourself a timer. And for starters, I'm going to put it for 45 minutes. We'll probably cook them for longer than that, but it's better to check before they start burning than have your smoke alarm go off. So we'll be back in 45 minutes and see how they do. Okay. Hey! So the timer is going off. Let's check on them. I've literally done nothing in the meantime. Like, I just did exactly what I showed you and then did other stuff. So they're almost done, but not quite, because there's still a fair amount of liquid and we want to reduce that liquid. So I'm gonna put the timer on now for, how long do you think, honey? 10 minutes? Okay, so I'm gonna put a timer on again for 10 minutes and then we'll check on them again. And I'm gonna leave them at the exact same temperature with the little kind of skewed lid. See you in 10 minutes. So after about 6 minutes, what happens is they got stuck to the bottom of the pot. They're not done cooking, but they got stuck. And so they started to burn. But it's really not a problem, and I wanted to share this so that anyone who has a similar mishap doesn't feel bad. It's okay. So they're very, very nearly done. I'm going to turn down the heat a little bit and stir them up to stop that sticking on the bottom. If you have a better pot than I do, then this might not happen to you. These are like cheap, I don't want to call them cheap, but these are hand-me-down pots from like Soviet Russia. So these are not the fanciest pots. You probably have pots that maybe don't do this sticking business. So on my timer, we still have about 3 minutes left. So that estimate that we needed about another 10 minutes was pretty good. So since you're watching this, presumably before you actually start cooking, you can take this as a little lesson, and when you add those extra 10 minutes, turn down the heat a little bit to a 5. So take it down from a 7 to a 5 for those last 10 minutes. And now this is actually looking great. And that smokiness kind of adds a little flavor. So if your beans got stuck and you get a little bit of smokiness, no worries, it's gonna taste great. Okay, we have 2 minutes. We'll jump back in 2 minutes. Okay, the timer just went off. Everything looks good. So now I'm gonna just stir it to get it off, all that's stuck off. I'm gonna turn off the heat. And this is done. So, I know it doesn't maybe look impressive, but this is gonna turn into some wonderful hummus tomorrow, or actually on Monday. So all I'm gonna do now is just, like I'm doing here, stir to get any stuff that's sticky off, unstuck. To cool. So I'm leaving it, this is an induction stove, so if I leave it here, it's not like still cooking. If you have like an old school stove with those like burner things that stay hot for a long time, then move it, you know, onto a different burner, just so that it's not still continuing to cook. And put the lid on, let it cool. When it's totally cooled down, not warm at all. You don't want it to be warm when you put it in the fridge because it's like bad for the fridge. And anyway, so when it's cool, then pop it in the fridge, and we'll see you Monday.